All right. Looks like everything is working, so we'll jump into it. We got a couple people in here already, so we'll get the disclaimers out of the way, the ones you guys hear every time if you're here normally. But just in case you're new, this is a weekly live broadcast. We do this pretty much every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. You can come in here, ask anything you want to talk about. It doesn't matter. I let the chat drive the way the conversation is going to go. So whether it be quail or rabbits or gardening or politics or religion or whatever controversial topic, I don't really care. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. The only things I ask are be polite, be family friendly, don't be hateful with anybody, don't be rude, don't start calling anybody names or cussing or any of those kinds of things. Just we can have differences of opinions. We can still be friends. It's okay. So with that being said, let's jump into it. We got Verna here. Says, hey, Chris, first like. Thanks, Verna. Good to see you. Thank you for joining tonight. Life Done Cheap is here. Hello to you. Alan Pulley says, hey, Chris and everyone. Good evening to you, too. We got this. Jack of all trades is here. Good to see you. Lots of people saying hello to everybody. Cindy Rapp, hello to you, too. Good to see you. Caesar's here. Says, hello to me and everybody else. The rest of the team. I guess we are a team. Why not? We'll let the... everybody saying hello to each other, which is all good. It's fine. I try to answer every chat that comes in, unless you're talking like to each other. Sometimes I'll skip over those. Hey, there's David Lister from McAllister. Good to see you. Andy Dundas is here. Says, hello, everybody from Southwest Michigan. Hopefully everybody's doing well. I'm doing well. Hopefully you are too. It's been a little busy here, but all in all, pretty good. Floyd Daniels says, Floyd in Gravel Switch, Kentucky. I don't know where that is exactly. I mean, I know where Kentucky is, but I don't know where that is specific to in Kentucky. But welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for joining us tonight. I appreciate that. And then we got Deborah Doyle says, hey, Chris, from Thumb of Michigan. Is that like, is that an actually a place? Is it called Thumb of Michigan, or is it like just how you refer to like the panhandle of Oklahoma or something like that? Is that, I don't know what that means exactly. I was actually born in Michigan, but my parents are both from Missouri, Southwest Missouri. They moved to Michigan, had 2 kids, and when I was 2 years old, we moved back. So I vaguely don't really remember Michigan very much. I was born in Battle Creek, though. So I don't know. Yeah, it's Thumb of Michigan. I don't know if that's an actual place. I gotta look it up because it's taken a minute to get a response. We'll find out. Probably responded to me by now. Yeah, it's a region. Okay, the peninsula. Got it. Oh, yeah, it does kind of look like a thumb. What do you know? Never noticed that before. Alan says, Chris, I purchased the quail egg peeler from your Amazon site today. Looking forward to using it. The eggs are stacking up. LOL. Yeah, it's a good investment. I don't know what the price is right now. When I bought it, it was running pretty cheap. Verna says, Chris is running slightly late. Am I not on? Can you guys not hear me? Oh, you said it's $36 now. Hang on. I'm going to make sure that I'm actually live. I show that I'm live. I show that I'm talking. But somebody respond and let me know that you can hear me, you can see me, because I'm getting Verna saying that I'm running late. So live. Okay, live. Okay, good. Okay, we're good then. That's what I want to make sure. I want to make sure I wasn't talking to nobody, because that's happened before. I've been sitting here talking away and all of a sudden nobody can hear me or something. But anyway. So you bought that. It's $36 now for the egg peeler. That's still not a bad price, really, but you will be amazed. That is so much better than hand peeling. It works fantastic. Eric Wellens, I think it is, says, hey, Chris, I have 6-week-old jumbo browns and see one of the roosters mount one of the hens, and I was wondering how long until the hens will start laying. Well, probably any time now. Usually between 6 to 8 weeks, somewhere right around in there, you'll start getting eggs. So anytime. The roosters do tend to, in my experience, mature just a little bit ahead of the hens. So that's not uncommon to see that from the roosters. I'd probably give them another 2 weeks before you'd expect any eggs. You might get them a little bit earlier, be a nice surprise. But definitely by about 8 weeks, you should probably start getting eggs. good luck with that. Hopefully that works out. I'm sure it will. Terry says, just bought some meat rabbits. How long does it take for them to have little ones? Have little ones? Well, it depends. I mean, were they bred when you bought them? I mean, their gestation period is about 30 days. So once you breed them, it's about 30 days from the date you breed them to about the time that they're going to have their babies. I don't know if they're bred already. Are you keeping them together, the male and the female? If you are, you probably should separate them out into separate pens, control the breeding. Chances are, if you're keeping them together, she's probably already bred. Don't know when that happens, so you're going to have a hard time knowing exactly when it's going to take place. And I don't know how old the rabbits are, so I don't know. Are you asking me, like, how old do they need to be before you can breed them? There's a lot of open stuff here I'm not really sure that I can answer. So fill in some of those gaps for me. We'll see if we can get you a better answer. Let's see. Life Done Cheap. Whoa, I scrolled too far. Hang on. There we go. Life Done Cheap says, I have you on my TV and my phone as I'm about to walk outside, and it's crazy. There's like a 10-second delay from the TV and the app on my phone. Yeah, that's probably that's probably crazy, isn't it? Because you get an echo, right? I've done that before too. I get it. Okay, lots of people saying we're here. Do you hear me? Thank you guys. I appreciate it. And Verna sees me now too. So I don't know. Maybe it was an issue on your end, Verna. Hopefully not. I don't know. Cindy Rapp says, my first quail hatch, it was a success. On to next round. On to the next round, I think is what it should say, with a hatch in 12 days. Well, awesome. Congratulations on your hatch, and hopefully your next one goes well as well. It was a little tongue twister, wasn't it? Joe says, Joe in Monticello, I think it is, Florida, checking in, had a red rat snake get one of our laying flock today. Snakes are super sly. We lost one last month, but the snake left the quail in the cage. So the quail, he killed one of them, but then left the quail in your cage. Is that right? I had to look up red rat snake. We don't have those around here. Is that it looks like a corn snake. Oh, it is a corn snake. It's just a different name for corn snake. I wasn't familiar with it. I had to look it up. So you're saying the snake got in there. Yeah, the corn snakes usually don't get quite that big to eat a full-grown quail. But if they're there and they smell it, they would probably go ahead and try. So constrict it, and it died, but they couldn't quite get it in their mouth, so they gave up and moved on. And they don't usually, snakes are not really bad about like killing things that they're not going to eat. But sometimes it does happen. They try to eat it and realize, oh, that's too much, I can't do it, and give up on it for that matter. Hopefully it doesn't come back. And hopefully you found how it got in and got that spot plugged. I've had that happen too. I had a black rat snake. It was considered pretty good size. Got in and got one of my quail. But anyway, Andy says, finally getting some warmer weather here in Michigan. How is it in Missouri? Actually, fairly mild. It's been raining like every other day. I mean, just ridiculous amounts of rain. Let's see. How much rain are we up to now? Last week we were at 4 inches, I think. Rainfall total in Joplin, June 2025. What are we up to now? 7.82 inches, and it's actually raining right now. So it's been a crazy amount of rain. It's just been raining nonstop. It seems like every day, every other day. We actually had, I took Tuesday off. I had to go in and have some dental work done, some scaling on my teeth, and I was going to be out till noon anyway, so I just took the whole day off, got some stuff done, and one of the things I did was mow the yard because it was actually sunny on Tuesday. And then it rained the next day, and it's rained today, and it's going to rain probably tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday and maybe even Monday and Tuesday. So a lot to rain, but temperature-wise, it hasn't been too bad. We haven't gotten too hot yet. It seems to be a little bit cooler. I mean, we're already middle of June, and we're only, I think the highest we've gotten is like mid-80s, 83, 84, somewhere right around in there. Clifton Buck says, hello, everybody from South Mississippi. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Let's see. Eric said, cool, thanks. I'm not sure what I said. I can't remember, but you're welcome anyway. Let's see. Bobby says, okay, oh, goodness, you pronounced my husband's last name correctly. Thanks and God bless. Good, you're welcome. What? It's not very often that I get them right, I guess. I don't know. See, Caesar says, my hatch 22 that hatched 17 male. Oh no, 22 total and 17 of them were male. I mean, it's a good hatch, I suppose. And if you were doing it for meat, who cares? I mean, roosters taste just as good as hens, um, but yeah, 17 out of 22 being roosters. That's bad luck, unfortunately. Hey, there's Tony. Good to see you. Tony and Doina, I think it is, both from Toronto. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining. Terry says, yes, they're at the age. I just put them together June 1st. So you've been leaving them together the whole time? That's really probably not good practice. You should separate them out. What you should do when you go to breed the rabbits, take the doe to the buck, watch it, monitor it, get a couple of good fall-offs from the buck, return the doe to her cage. She's bred. You don't want to really just leave them together. She can get pretty territorial. She can do a lot of damage to the buck if you do that. Plus, you don't know when she bred. So you've had them together since June 1st. So let's see. I would go with probably around, I would count that as 30 days. So somewhere around the 26th, go out there, every day, throw a handful of straw in the cage with her. When she picks it up and starts walking around the cage with it hanging out both sides of her mouth, she's ready to build a nest, put a nest box in there, and count on babies in the next couple of days. That's kind of the way I would go with it. But with her being in there and you don't know when they actually got bred, if they did or not, you're going to have to wait and see. I mean, wait until at least 3 weeks after that before you count her out as not being bred, and then you can start over and breed her again at that point. That would be my advice to you. Alan says, it's raining a lot here in Virginia also. It's putting a hurting on my garden. Yeah, I actually decided to take the year off of gardening, but I can imagine that if I didn't, it would be pretty rough, actually. Everything would be drowning. Eric says, here just north of D.C., we're going to get rain for the next 5 days. Hey, we're right there with you. Doina says, I love rain. I don't have to water my garden. Well, yeah, I mean, it's good in that sense, but at the same time, there's such a thing as too much rain. Yeah, I don't have my garden, I don't have the garden going this year. I took, like I said, a year off, but if I did have it in the ground, I'm afraid that plants would be probably getting too much water and would have to worry about things like root rot and fungus issues and all that kind of stuff. David says, we have no counties in drought conditions here in Oklahoma. I don't think we do in Missouri either. We're well out of the drought here in my area anyway. Joe says, question, are Tamuk and Tamuk composite two names for the same type of rabbit? I don't think so. I think Tamuk composite is a mix, I believe. Let me double check something, though, because I haven't really kept up on that. Well, maybe they are the same thing. Well, let's see. Tamuk rabbits are a composite breed. Okay, they're a cross of 7 breeds: New Zealand, Red Siamese Satin, California Champagne, blah, 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 blah. Let me see something else here real quick. I think they are actually... Okay, so yeah, that's it. That's what I thought. Okay, Tamuks are basically a New Zealand. They're all white, but composites are made up of several different breeds, including satins, and there's several others. You kind of have to look it up to get all the details of what they are, but they're slightly different. Terry said, okay, thanks. Well, you're absolutely welcome. Farmer Marshall says, hey, Chris, raining here in Georgia outside of Atlanta. My garden has enough water, but I'm trying not to complain. Yep. Yeah, that's all. All you can do is roll with it, right? I know there was some newscasts the other day about some of the farmers having some difficulty because of all the rain we've been getting. A few little storms that came through, but nothing real serious. I think there was probably some low-grade tornadoes out of the storms that came through on, was it Monday or Sunday? I think it was. Maybe it was Sunday, or maybe it was Saturday. I don't remember. One day, several days ago. But they didn't, I don't know, confirm, no injuries or anything that I heard of on that. A little bit of property damage, pretty minor stuff. So it could have been a lot worse. Thankfully, there's no big issues with that. Special K says, hey, Chris, how's it going? I just wanted to see if you or anyone in the chat has ever had a coon open a barrel lock. This happened to my son a while back, and I've had coons rip off my hardware cloth. I have not had that issue. I've had raccoons come up to my hutch I've caught them on trail cams, kind of like reaching up towards it, but then they just kind of move on, and no problems. Now, with that being said, every great once in a while, I'll end up with a bird that just like suddenly just can't hardly walk, like it's got some kind of major leg injury and whatnot, and then it just passes a day or two later. So who knows? Maybe that's a coon. Maybe it's something else that's pestering them, getting to them. Maybe it's just old age from the birds. There could be a number of different things causing that. I don't have a camera on the hutch anymore, so I don't know if there's anything pestering them, but that's pretty rare. It doesn't happen very often. I would think if it was a raccoon, it would be a more frequent thing, but who knows? We'll see. We'll see if anybody else has had that issue. Alan says, yes, having fungus issues with the tomatoes already. Yeah, that was one of the reasons I decided to take a break from gardening this year. Was I've had big issues with blight over the last couple of years, trying to stay on top of it. It's just been difficult when you work a full-time job, and it's hard to get out there every day, pull off the leaves that are affected, and it just ends up, you kind of just give up. I do kind of give up by the end of the season, just let it go, So I thought take a year off, maybe that'll kind of help clear up some of the fungus issues, but then it won't stop raining. So I don't know. S.O. Swanson says to Special K, they can open a barrel lock with ease, put a second device they typically can't figure out, 2 locks. They only do 1. It's a good thought. Doina says, well, I have good drainage in the garden, lots of wood chips to soak the water, so haven't had to drown the plants. Problem so far. Yeah, okay. That's good. I wish I had a constant supply of wood chips because I really love wood chips as a mulch, but the problem is I can't come up with enough of them to keep up with mulch in the garden. Oh, excuse me. Desert Homestead says, what is all this rain stuff you're talking about? Well, we average 4 to 6 inches per year here. It's like gardening in your oven. Yeah, I can imagine. I know it's not like that. I mean, we're way above schedule for rain. Usually in June, our average rainfall, let's see. Rainfall in June in Joplin, Missouri. Let's see what the average is. The average precipitation in Joplin, Missouri for the entire month of June is about 5 inches. And we're already at almost 8, and we're only on the 12th of the month. So we're way ahead of schedule. And it sucks, too, because, normally by this time I've got a fishing trip or two, but all the rivers are all up and muddy and flowing high over their banks, and you're close anyway. So just not good conditions to be out there trying to catch fish in. Excuse me. All right, chat has slowed down. We'll give it a second. As Joe says, the coons have opened a hutch door and pulled the J feeder off of a quail cage. Then we enclosed the hutch area with poultry netting. That fixed it, I suppose. Bev Smith says, rainy season has begun in Florida as well. Is that pretty normal for Florida, though? I mean, it's, like I said, this is pretty abnormal. This is like April into May, late April, early May weather is what we're getting right now. But yeah, pretty normal for Florida. So yeah, a little crazy here right now with all the rain. I mean, the rivers are just way up. It's crazy. Usually see that, like I said, late April into early May. Sometimes mid-May, by then, but usually June we're starting to dry out and praying for rain. Alan says, how long do you keep your quail breeders before replacing them? It varies significantly. So I've kept them up to like 2 years before and still, had them bred. But usually about once a year I'll replace them. Sometimes a little bit more frequently, but usually about once a year. I'll just, I'll pick out a bunch of, hens and a couple of roosts from my last hatch, and those become my new breeders, and I process the existing ones. Let's see, Keone, I think is how I pronounce that, says 2 does had 9 kits and 8 kit litters in the last 2 days. Always makes for a good week. Yeah, those are pretty good. 9 and 8. I got 7 out of my Tamuk. So that was I wasn't too upset. That was a pretty decent litter. But yeah, definitely 8 and 9. I wouldn't complain about that either. So congratulations. Joe says the heat came about a month early in Florida. Yeah, that's it's kind of late here. We're usually pretty hot by now. Desert Homestead says, my brother in North Carolina said he got 30 inches in 24 hours with Hurricane Helen. That is so hard to comprehend. Yeah, I've been through a hurricane before, and that I get. Yeah, I can imagine that it did come down like that, but still, 30 inches in 24 hours. That I mean, my whole yard would be underwater. It seems like. Eric says here on the Potomac, high muddy water only hides big logs and trees, so watch out. Yeah, I mean it's pretty similar, I think, in just about any river. I mean that's the problem when the rivers are up; they're flowing over stuff they don't normally flow over, and you can't see it because the water's muddy and you don't know. And so yeah, it's best to just not even be on them when the water is up, within reason. I mean, it could be up a little bit and you're okay, but plus there's all kinds of debris floating in it. Not trash usually, but sometimes trash and stuff. But usually tree limbs, logs, all that kind of stuff just floating in the creek. Fish aren't biting anyway, so it's just not worth going. All right. Again, chat has slowed down. We're only 21 minutes in. I don't, you guys know me. I don't really have anything planned out, so I don't have anything to talk about if there's nothing coming through the chat. So I kind of rely on that. I always say I need to kind of plan some things out, and I never do. Let's see. Keone says, Middle Tennessee, have only had the AC on a few days so far this year. Window fan, like an attic fan you stick in the window, has made this very doable this year. Yeah, we haven't had our air conditioner on much either. I mean, a couple of times we've had it on, but I don't have an attic fan. I kind of wish I did. I grew up with one, and man, they're fantastic. If we had one, yeah, we definitely could have done without the air conditioner. We have a couple of little fans that we turn on, and for the most part, like the air conditioner is on today, but I don't know that it's probably kicked on a couple of times. I know it has, but it's not running much, so I'm not complaining from that standpoint. Keeps my electric bill down. I do have solar, so my electric bills are usually not too bad. But the longer, I mean, usually in the summer, I have a couple of months where I have to pay a little bit, like maybe $100 for a couple of months. But usually in the wintertime, the rest of the year, I'm building up credits, and that's what prolongs how much, how long I can go into the summer before I start paying anything, because my normal electric bill is $13 a month because of the solar panels. S.S. Swanson says, so much rain here in Mississippi. We've had to open most of the dams. Yeah, I think it's like a big part of the country is like that. I know. Let's see. Shane said, hello, Chris and viewers. I was in and out during last week's video and missed your question as to where in East Texas I live. I'm 30 miles south of Tyler, outside of Jacksonville. Well, I've been to Tyler before. Not really sure exactly where Jacksonville is, but I lived in Nacogdoches for about 8 years. So not terribly far from there, I suppose. Desert says, I'm on well water, and my well is 800 feet deep. Wow, that is pretty deep, isn't it? Huh. Joe says, Chris, have you ever gone to an ARBA show? No, I have not. I've never been into really showing rabbits. It's just not my deal. I've thought about it once or twice. I'm like, I don't really care. I don't really care about getting into showing. It's just not my thing. David Lister says, so much rain here, I may start a rice patty, I think is what it's supposed to be. Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea, is it? Alan Pulley says a new season of The Chosen is coming out next week, I believe. I think it is. Yeah, on Prime. I think it comes out on Sunday, doesn't it? The 15th, I believe, is when the new season launches. It's such a good show. I think even people that aren't Christian would probably like that show. It's so well put together. It's just high production quality. And I kind of look forward to seeing the new season. Doina says, Fubar on Netflix. I don't know what that means. Is that a show? I don't know what that means. Farmer Marshall says, the third of my 3 quail hens finally started laying eggs. She's almost 2 weeks behind the other hens. She's the smallest, so maybe that's why. It could be. I mean, sometimes you get like a runt that develops a little bit slower than the rest of them for whatever reason. It's just it's just nature. You can't do anything about it, unfortunately. Zora says close to 6 inches here last night in Texas. 6 inches in one day? That's a lot. Hey, there's Bill Cox. He says hello from Middle Georgia. Good to see you, Bill. Thanks for joining. Eric says the weather in the DMV changes so fast. One day it's 85, the next day it drops to 65, but here we're used to it. I think that's pretty much, I mean, maybe not quite that drastic. We don't usually, occasionally we see that, but that's not super common to have 85 down to 65. But, the weather changing every day, that's pretty much everywhere. I mean, everybody has that saying, right? If you don't like the weather, wait a day. That's just pretty, everybody thinks it's so unique to their area that the weather, it changes every other day, but it's pretty common everywhere, really. Unless you live in the desert maybe, and then it may not be that different every day. S.O. Swanson says to David Lister, as soon as you plant that rice, the drought will begin. Yep, that's exactly right. Zohar says, I had Coturnix lay 2 eggs yesterday. Does that happen often? Not incredibly often, but occasionally. And it's not usually that they lay 2 in one day. It's just that it kind of overlaps. I mean, I guess it is technically 2 in one day, but yeah, it does happen from time to time. It's just the egg cycle that they're on every once in a while. You just catch it at the right time where they may lay one in the evening and one, late morning, late afternoon or something. And it looks like 2 in one day, which I guess it technically is, but it's not incredibly common. Best Gamer WV says, hey, Chris, I hatched out my first jumbo white quail finally. Very excited, but was wondering when am I able to vent sex them? They're about 7 weeks old. I'm new to quail. Okay, so you really need to wait until the roosters start crowing and the hens start laying eggs before you can vent sex them. What you're looking for is for the males, once they start crowing, that means they're sexually mature at that point. Maybe give them a week after you hear the first crow, and then you should be able to vent sex and turn them over. I've got a video on it. If you need, you can go look. I think it's called 3 Easy Ways to Sex Your Quail or something like that. That shows how to vent sex them. You just basically turn them over. There's going to be a little bit of a bulge right behind their vent, and you kind of press on that a little bit, and you should see some white foam kind of come out. That's a male. The rest of them would be hens. 340 Quail Farms here. Says hello to Chris and everyone. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Buck Reynolds says, hey, everybody running late. Hope everyone is well. I'm doing well. Hopefully you are too. There we go. Okay, let me see. We've got Shane says, I finally pulled the trigger on getting quails. They also had 14 live birds that I bought. They also had a very familiar, slightly redneck quail cage. Well, awesome. Congratulations on your new quail. And I guess other people are using the same design I have. So glad to hear it. Hopefully it works out well for them too. David says, do all avian species lay more consistently under artificial light? Well, I mean, as far as I know, yes. I mean, I know all the common ones, ducks, chickens, quail. I mean, even I think like wild birds, it's all dependent on the amount of daylight that they get. So if you don't have artificial light, when you get those shorter days, they're not going to be laying eggs. I think it's pretty standard with pretty much all birds, but I don't know. There may be some exceptions to that. In fact, the amount of daylight really determines a whole lot of stuff in the natural world. I mean, hummingbirds move south based on the length of daylight in the day. I mean, that's everything. All animals, for the most part, the amount of light during the day drives something. Usually breeding in most animals, wild animals, the amount of light in the day kind of cues their breeding seasons. It's a pretty common thing. Zara says, metal square front litter box scoop allows me to clean a sandbox in less than 2 minutes, and it works great. Nice. I've had a hard time finding litter box scoops that aren't too wide. The gaps aren't too wide, so the quail manure falls through and just the sand falls through. I've used a screen to screen my sand, and it works pretty well. It takes a little bit more than 2 minutes, but I would like to find one of those. I just haven't been able to yet. Keone says, question, so with quail, are males and females just as tender for eating, or is there a difference? Sexist that I am, I'm thinking males might be a tougher meat. I don't know that I've ever noticed a difference in one being more tender than the other. Quail in general, they're pretty lean, so they're not super tender anyway, especially if you fry them or something like that. And the other thing is, I don't really know. I mean, once I've processed them, I can't tell the difference between a male and a female anyway. So I'm not sure that I've been able to ever tell much of a difference, though. Eric says, how much light do quail How much light per day do quail need to lay year round? And is LED lights okay? Yeah, LED lights are fine. They need about 14 hours a day to consistently lay. So if you can read by the light, it's plenty bright enough. I've got some solar lights that I've been using. They're an automatic dusk to dawn light. So as soon as it starts to get dark, they come on. They stay on until the battery runs out, sometimes all night long. But they work pretty well. They're in my Amazon shop. You can find that. Any of my videos has a link to my Amazon shop in it. You can click on that and go see which ones I'm using. They work pretty well. And you don't have to turn them on. They just come on automatically. Farmer Marshall says, Chris, your quail hutch is pretty popular. I'm going to build a second one once I have enough quail. Well, awesome. Hopefully that goes well. Joe says, question, ever use ivermectin to treat ear mites in rabbits? We have a productive doe who inherited a tendency for ear mites. Oddly, it's only one. The other girls don't get them or don't show symptoms. I've never used ivermectin. When I treat ear mites, it's a pretty common thing you're going to run into fairly often with rabbits, to be a little bit more prone than others. I don't know why. But just a couple of drops of food oil in their ear every day for about a week until the scabs are all gone. And then every other day for about another week after that gets rid of it. So you don't have to use any pesticides. You can just use what I typically use. You can put a couple of drops of oil in there, or I get the spray can of olive oil, and that's what I use. Just, you can kind of spray in their ear. They don't like it, but it will get rid of the ear mites without using any kind of pesticide. So that's what I go for. Farmer Marshall says, hopefully I get an offer to do a video about solar lights so I can use them for my quail in the fall and the winter. I want eggs year round. So you're hoping that you get an offer to like somebody sponsor you and send you a video or send you solar lights for free. Hopefully you do. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Shane says, the guy of the couple and I were talking about the cages while our wives were talking. His wife later tried to tell me how to raise quail. He stopped her and said he watches Slightly Rednecked. So they knew who I was, huh? Small world, I guess. But that's cool. I'm glad that they stopped you and told you watch me. So I don't know if you're not going to be able to convince him differently, or that means he knows what he's doing because he watches me. I don't know. Excuse me. Eric says, what's your favorite recipe for quail? Oh boy, there's a whole bunch of them. A lot of times I just cook it like you would chicken depending. I don't fry it typically. So it does pretty good. Like I like it in quesadillas. I tend to cut the breast off the bone. So I have a boneless two halves basically. A lot of times I'll do, one of my favorites is probably like a saute, I guess you would call it, or maybe even I don't think it'd be braising, kind of like braising, but more of a saute, I guess, where just kind of lightly dredge them in some flour, season, salt, pepper, season the flour, just a light dusting of flour on them, maybe in some bacon grease or something like that, just a little bit, kind of brown that on every side, remove them from the pan, throw in some whatever you like, onions, mushrooms, whatever you like, saute those down, make a little bit of a roux with some of that flour, thin it out to make it into a gravy, put the quail breast back in there, close the lid on it, put a lid over it, saute and, simmer, I guess I should say, 20 minutes or so until the quail are done. And that's pretty good. Serve that with some mashed potatoes. That's pretty good. Farmer Marshall says, yes, free lights for a sponsored video. Yeah, that would be awesome. I haven't had free lights from a video, but I have gotten sponsored on a couple of videos, Boots and the Green Stock Garden, which is fantastic, by the way. There is a link to get a discount on that if you want my descriptions. What else? I did get sponsored by, what's her name? I can't remember all of a sudden. The temperature controller that I use. What is that called? I can't remember. Anyway, it's in my, they sponsored me and sent me a free temperature controller. Inkbird, thank you. Bev Smith got it for me. Yeah, the Inkbird temperature controller. That was a sponsored video. They sent that to me. I'm still using it. A mouse or something chewed the wire in half for the temperature sensor, and I wired it back together and put some tape around it. Still working. I do need to buy a new one, though. It's getting to a point where it kind of glitches out every once in a while. I got to smack it to get it to start working again. But for the most part, it's still working. Doina says, how many quails do you have right now? Adults, juveniles, and hatching. Let's see. I've got, about a dozen adults right now. Probably 10 hens and 2 roosters, I believe. And my latest hatch is, probably right at 6 weeks old right now. Maybe not quite. I think they're 5 weeks old right now. And there's 45 of them, I think. I have to go out and count again, but I think that's right. I don't have anything hatching right at the moment. I'll probably do another hatch here, I don't know, in a week or two maybe. We'll see. Shane says, Nacogdoches is about 40 minutes southeast of me. So, yeah, not too terribly far, huh? Beth Smith says, I love mine. Love your Inkbird. Yeah, they're fantastic. It's so much more convenient to do it that way. Joe says, you're making me hungry. That recipe sounds like what we call a Louisiana fricassee or etouffee, smothered. Yeah, it's pretty similar. I mean, you can cook lots of things that way. It's a pretty common recipe to do a lot of things. Wild game tends to do well that way, and so does, any kind of really lean meat does well that way. Lots of things do, and you can substitute that out. That's, with roux, make it into a gravy. But you can do the same thing with like a marinara sauce and chicken breast and, all kinds of things. Let's see. Life Done Cheap with Lee says, my doe is officially 2 days late. She was exactly 31 days last time. Well, sometimes they do go a little bit longer. So give her a little bit more time. We'll see how she does. Katrina says, how often do you hatch eggs? Well, it just kind of varies. I do it. I'm sorry, I got distracted by another comment. I just do it whenever. Sometimes I hatch out a lot in summer and sometimes I don't. It just varies quite a bit. Right now, I'm going to probably wait until these birds, I could go ahead and hatch right now because they're, like I said, about 5 weeks old. So that gives me a couple of weeks before. I've only got the 2 hutches and I could throw young birds in with them, but it gets pretty crowded in those and it gets hard for me to keep track of. So I tend to wait until that batch is just getting real close to processing time. And then I'll start at maybe another batch because they'll be in the brooder box for, 2 weeks roughly. And then that gives me time to get these processed, get them out of there. So I have a hutch to throw them into whenever they come out of the brooder. So, it just depends. And usually when I'm hatching, I'm, anywhere from about 70 to 100 eggs at a time. This last batch, I did 60. I got 50 of them, I think, to hatch and lost like 5 of them, splay leg and that kind of thing. But we'll see how the next hatch goes. Shane says, when I boys, I don't know what that means. I'm lost. Sorry. Nadia says, hey, everyone, 2 questions. Does male quail fertility really drop after 9 months of age? And what is the best bedding litter for an aviary that's not a deep litter method, please? Okay, so 9 months, not maybe a little, but not much that I've noticed. I've had quail, males included, for up to 2 years and still got fertile eggs out of them. Pretty good fertility rates. So I don't know that that's necessarily true. If you want the absolute best, if you're really focused on getting the absolute best fertility you can possibly get, yeah, probably replace them at least, by 10 to 12 months, somewhere like that. But I don't know that it's, an absolute that it really starts dropping that much at 9 months. As far as a litter or bedding for an aviary, if you don't want to use a deep litter method, the idea behind deep litter method is that you don't have to clean it nearly as much. Without using a deep litter method, you're probably going to end up with a whole lot of buildup unless you were to be able to rotate them through areas. So if you were to have either a tractor that you can move or maybe multiple sections of your aviary and you could rotate them from one area to the next, give that time to recover, and then back to the other area and then give that time to recover, you could do that and you wouldn't necessarily need bedding. You just let the vegetation in there grow up and that would probably work just fine. I don't do aviaries though, so somebody else may have a better suggestion for you than I do. Zohar says, my quail are just over 8 weeks old, been laying 2 weeks now, and eggs are not fertile yet. How long does it normally take? Well, usually about 2 weeks, roughly. I mean, you should start seeing fertile eggs. Are you sure they're not fertile? I mean, I guess you probably know, or you wouldn't be saying that if you didn't know, right? That does seem odd that they're not fertile yet, because usually you're getting fertile eggs by 2 weeks. Um, do you, and forgive me, you may already know this. Do you know your experience with how to tell if eggs are fertile or not? Is I guess is my question. It's not something you're doing for the first time, and you just think they're not fertile, maybe, and maybe they are, or you've done this before, you know what you're doing, and they're not fertile. I guess would be my question. Joe says, life done cheap. We've had does go 33 days for the first litter. If nothing after 35 days, rebreed. Yeah, that's a pretty good bet. I usually would give them, yeah, like I said, 35 days. I think you're right. And if she's not had them by 35 days, then count it as a false pregnancy or something. Life Done Cheap says, I just had 5 of 12 goose eggs hatch yesterday. Well, congratulations on that. Sounds like a pretty good hatch rate. I've never hatched geese before. Cindy says, I'm going to need to cut my stay short tonight. Wishing all a happy Father's Day. See you next week. Oh, it is Father's Day this weekend, isn't it? Well, thank you. I would say you too, but you're not a father. So, but either way, have a good weekend. And thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate that. Joe wants to know, have I ever hatched guinea hens? No, I have not. Never tried guineas. Bill says, Chris, I'm thinking about getting a trio of Tamuks. I'm trying to decide on a second breed to help pay for feed, champagnes, silver foxes, or other suggestions. Boy, that's a good question. You want a second breed to sell to help pay for feed. I don't know what's. Look up in your area and see what people are selling and how much they're going for. Check Craigslist. See what Are there people selling champagnes? Is that a pretty common breed? Do they go for a lot? Check the silver foxes. See, are people selling those? If you see pretty regular posts from people selling either one of those, it probably means there's a decent market for it. And that might be the one to go with. I couldn't tell you which one to go with, though, really. I like the silver foxes quite a bit, but I don't know a whole lot about champagnes. I've never actually raised them myself. Life Done Cheap says, let's see, I heard waiting 10 days after due date to rebreed. Well, you can. I don't know there's any reason to go that far, but you can definitely do that. Shane says, sorry about the previous post. When I bought the birds, I bought hatching eggs. I got 4 dozen eggs for hatching and 4 dozen for eating. We'll see how the hatch goes. Yeah, no problem. But good luck with your hatch. Hopefully it goes well. 4 dozen eggs, that's a pretty decent amount. Joe says, Bill Cox, we've had good luck crossing Tamuk with New Zealand. Well, Tamuks basically are in New Zealand, right? It's pretty much just a New Zealand breed but yeah, that would make sense. You should have good results with that. Zora says, no bullseyes, just dots when I open, so I assume they're not yet fertile with a question mark. So, that bullseye is pretty faint. It's kind of hard to see. It's not, I don't know if you look up, I don't know if I can give you a good picture of it. I don't know if there's it's not a super dark, and all the pictures make it, I think, look darker than it is, make it look more obvious than it is. But I don't know how to help you with that. First of all, are your roosters crowing? I guess would be the question, which would be unusual if you didn't have. And how many roosters do you have compared to how many hens do you have? Let's go with that, and we'll see if we can troubleshoot it from that side. Desert Homestead says, do your quail stand in their water cups? Mine will stand with 1 foot in the yellow piece, and the water is just pouring on the ground. It's 105 plus, so I understand. I wish they didn't waste it, though. That has happened to me before. It seems like some birds are a little bit more prone to it. They like to poop in the water cups for some reason. And the rabbits do too. Not in cups, but in the bowls. I don't get it. Why would you poop in your water dish? But anyway, they do that from time to time. And I've had birds stand on them before And I've solved that. You can run like a piece of wire over the top of it, give it that much room so they can still get their head under it to drink, but they can't quite get on it to stand in it. That's just, that can kind of fix that. Or, like a slight shelf or something, just something to put above it so they can't quite stand on it, but they can still get their head in there to drink. Let's see. Doina says to Nadia, 5-acre farm, use trays under each quail cage. They keep them indoors, lots of ventilation. In an aviary, I'd keep lots of vegetation. Yeah, I think that's probably good advice. Nadia says, thank you. The aviary area has cemented floor, so no dirt or vegetation. Doina says pots. You could do that. Cemented floor would be easy to spray off, but hopefully it's not in the sun because man, that would get hot. But yeah, you could do potted plants. That would be a good thing. Shallow, maybe shallow containers with dirt, and you could grow some small vegetation in there. That would be some things to think about too. Nadia says, I was thinking about some of the potted plants, but still trying to decide what to do for the bedding. Honestly, I don't know that you need a whole lot of bedding in there. You can build yourself a decent little sandbox, and they would spend a lot of time in the sand. I don't know. I'm not sure the best option. We'll let somebody else kind of feed in that. Like, I don't do aviaries, so I'm not sure the best way to do that. Joe says, got to run. Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend. Hope to see you all next week. Should be here next week. At this point, don't see any reason why I won't be. Have a good weekend. Christina says, I'm new to quail. I had 11 hatched, 2 have since died. The rest seem good. I have chickens and hatched for 3 years now, and 0 die after hatch. Quail is the first I have ever had die after hatch. It happens, let's see, 2 out of 11. That seems a little bit high. What are you using for a heat source for them? Are you using heat lamps, or are you using like a heat plate or something like that? And do you know why they died? Did they have like splayed leg or something like that? Or just die? I don't know. Nadia says, no sun there, lots of trees and shade. Well, good. That does make it a little bit easier. Zohar says 5 hens to rooster. Okay, that's a good ratio. 1 rooster to every 5 hens. They crow a lot. Also, I have 64-week-old quail, and every once in a while they go into what I call popcorn mode, running around like crazy. Funny to watch as they seem to enjoy. Yeah, mine do the same thing. I opened the door today and I had one of them jump out and the other one ran up the door. I mean, it's because it opens down, so I had it kind of up like this. Ran up the door, I caught him, pushed him back in, and they were going all over the place. But it is funny. I agree. Funny to watch. But it sounds like your hen to rooster ratio is pretty good. I mean, your eggs should be fertile at this point. You might give it another week and just see. But if they still don't appear to be fertile, I'd go ahead and just try to incubate and see what happens. Buck Reynolds says Tammy has 4 to 5 different breeds of rabbits in them. Tammy, I think that's Tamuk, right? That's composites, though, right? Because Tamuks. Let's see. I believe Tamuk, like General Tamuk, there's a Tamuk and then there's a Tamuk composite, I think. I think the Tamuks are primarily, honestly, I don't know. I've seen Tamuk rabbits being called about all over, like blah, 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 blah. It's going to take forever for me to read. We'll have to look that up. I thought Tamuks were primarily a New Zealand white breed. I didn't think they had a lot. I thought the composites were the one that had all the different kinds of breeds in them, but I may be wrong. Shane says, had a guy tell me that if one fire ant bites a quail, it will die. I don't think you have that problem in your area, but do you or viewers have experience? There's the other rest of that. I'm well aware of fire ants. We don't have them here, thank goodness. When I lived in Texas, so they were everywhere. And I find it hard to believe that if one fire ant bites them, they'll die. That may be true. I don't have experience with it, so I can't speak to it, but that doesn't seem quite right to me. Doina says, Nadia, can you source sawdust, would soak a lot of fertility from the bird's poop. Gold to put in your garden after a while. Sawdust, maybe. Here's the problems you may run into with sawdust that I would be cautious of is, first of all, sawdust really it can clump up and become like concrete, basically. So it may not be the best option. The other thing is that with their high nitrogen manure mixing in with that wood, it's going to probably start composting, and it gets pretty hot when it starts breaking down. So that would be my other concern with it too. Wood chips might be a little bit of a better option, but even that, you're going to run into the same problem, I would think. But that's just my thought. I'm not really. That's my initial thoughts on it. I don't know. That may not be true, but that's kind of what I would think. Maureen says, I put sand in my aviary, and the quail seem to like it. They do like sand. That's a pretty good. Even if you just put a big sand box in there, so you didn't have to take up the whole aviary with it, that would give them, something to get into. Doina says, Chris, what's your situation with rabbits, breeders, ages, juveniles coming up? So right now I've got the 2 breeder silver fox, 2 breeder tamuks. I have a litter of tamuks. I have 7 right now that are just a little over 2 weeks old right now. And then I have 2 males left from my last. They're going on like 10 weeks right now from my last batch of silver foxes. I sold the rest of them, pay for feed, and have 2 left that I'll probably end up processing here in about a week or 2. And I'm probably not breeding the silver foxes again this year. It's going to get to a point where it's going to get too hot. But I may try to breed the tamuks again because they are supposed to be heat tolerant. So I may try that out and see how that works. But that'll be a couple of weeks from now at least. Nadia says, not sure about sawdust. We have all kinds of pine shavings. Pine's okay to use. Again, the only thing I would worry about would be if it starts to break down. It gets pretty hot when it starts to break down, and would it be too hot for them? That's the only thing I would worry about. Let's see. Keone says, silver foxes are very good. Champagnes were not. Does were not willing breeders. Bucks not aggressive enough to breed. Chinchillas were fair. Yeah. Well, there's some thoughts on it. That's a good point. The silver foxes have been pretty easy to breed for me. I've never raised champagnes. I did have a chinchilla doe one time, and she was great. I had no problems breeding her, and the cutest little baby rabbits. I did have some problems with nest box eye. It seemed to be a pretty common issue with the babies. Not terribly hard to treat. Just use like a tea, like brew some tea, an herbal tea. What kind of tea was it? Chamomile, I think it was what I was using on that. Brew that, use the tea bag to kind of clean their eye out every day, and it goes away pretty quick. But anyway, Katrina says, I gave my birds a plastic shoebox with sand, and they love it. Yeah, the only problem you may run into with a shoebox, and you may not have had this issue, is they kick all the sand out. It's kind of small, right? But I don't know if that's really an issue for you or not. And if you get a bigger one, that's fairly large, well, when they're in the center, at least when they're kicking, it's not going to go all out over the edges. Nadia says to Marie, not a fan of sand. I have one right now as a half part of their cage, and it gets very smelly fast, and sifting would take forever in the aviary. Well, I didn't think about this, though. You're right. An aviary, you're not necessarily protected from the rain. So if it gets wet, yeah, it's going to smell. I don't know exactly the best option for you. Zohar says, store quail eggs at 50 degrees for up to 7 days. Okay. Yes. Yeah, that'll be fine. Turn them every day, at least once a day. But yeah, storing them at that temperature for 7 days works fine. Doina says, so sawdust, pine shavings in the winter, summer perhaps hose the cement floor down. It could be. I don't know the best option. I don't know that walking on cement is going to be good for them, though. They may need something a little bit better than that. You might look at something like, it's going to be hard to fill an aviary, though, with much. I don't know how big your aviary is, but still, that seems like an awful big area to try to fill with bedding and find anything that would be cost effective. Hey, we've got Sergio from New York. Barely made it in. We're about to wrap up here, but thank you for joining. See, Maureen says that your birds 99% of the time lay in the corners. Interesting. And Bev says, I have tarps or plants on 3 sides of my aviary. Yeah, that sounds good. We got 5 minutes left. What can we get covered in 5 minutes? Bev says, and I have a variety of bedding in there, some sand. I throw a lot of mulch in there and grass clippings. I never thought about grass clippings. Those break down awful fast too, though, and that would be the only thing I would worry about is, you ever pile up a pile of grass, and as it starts breaking down, stick your hand in there. It gets incredibly hot. That would be the thing I would worry about. Would be, but it may not be an issue if you're not piling it up. If you're just spreading it out, it may not be that big of a deal. Buck Reynolds says, and New Zealand's are the best meat rabbits to go watch because some New Zealand rabbits are hard to handle. Yeah, some New Zealand's, it's pretty common, especially the does. The does can be a little bit neurotic and a little bit crazy, but the bucks are usually pretty mellow. Nadia says it's 8x8 and 6 foot high, completely under the roof, no rain. We'll be getting in. Okay, well, that's good then. I don't know. You said you have problems with the sand getting really smelly. If it's dry, you shouldn't have any problems with that. If it's wet, that's where the smell is going to come from. Bev says they spread it out within hours, talking about the grass clippings. And you may be right. That may not be an issue because they may be just kicking it around and spreading it all out anyway and turning it all the time. So it may not have time to sit and get too hot. Katrina says, my birds are currently hiding from the hail and major downpour. Yeah, hopefully that goes away, huh? Dwayne says, learn lots about aviaries. And Bev Smith says, it's not an issue. The heat's not an issue. Okay, good. That's my only concern, but like I said, I may be wrong. That's just what I know of. You mix manure with carbon and it's going to start breaking down. So that was my only concern. Mr. Mata says, my New Zealand rabbits are 12 weeks old. Should I butcher now? Probably. I mean, they're probably about ready. Are they around 5 pound mark? Probably. They're probably ready. Nadia says, thanks to everyone. Well, you're absolutely welcome. How are we doing on time? 2 minutes left. Zohar said, some landfills give wood chips away and power line clearing crews will drop truckloads of chips at my place if I let them know. Saves them a trip. I've done that before. I had power line clearing places drop wood chips, but I just can't get it real consistent. You never know when they're going to do it. They don't schedule. They just show up one day with wood chips, and you don't know when it's going to happen. And like I said, it's not super consistent. Shane says, everyone have a great night. Thanks, you too. Special case says, Terry from Contronics Corner had an aviary, and I think he used wood chips. Might work. Katrina says, watch for sideline rain. Yeah, that happens from time to time. Bev Smith says, chip drop will dump a truckload. I've gotten a couple so far for free. I've tried that, and they never contacted me. I had to contact the actual, the company that was doing the wood the trimming to get them to drop any off. And like I said, I can't get it real consistent. You just never know when they're going to be available. All right, guys. Looks like a good place to wrap this one up. We got one more comment I'll answer here from Kiona. I wait till 16 weeks so I can tan the rabbit hide. I figure they are giving their life. I should use as much possible. Ears are loved by friends' dogs. Yeah, I use the ears for dog treats. I don't usually bother tanning the hides. In fact, I don't ever tan the hides. But I may do that at some point. There's nothing wrong with doing that. All right, guys. We're going to wrap this one up. Thank you for joining me tonight. I should see all of you next week, hopefully. I should be back. I don't see any reason why not. And until then, God bless.